Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Thoughts, Feelings, Emotions, the only podcast where the host goes away and leaves his second in command to cover all of the news of the week. And unfortunately, there wasn't much. So what we're doing instead is I found the very first episode me and Dan recorded of this podcast together. It was thought lost and not findable. I managed to find it and I thought, oh, convenient timing because Dan's going away and we're not going to have time to record and I'm not going to have enough news to cover. So let's go and rehash old news and get it out there to the public. So hopefully you enjoy this episode. I've done my best to try and restore it as best I can. And yeah, we'll see you next week when Dan has returned from his holiday. See ya.
We can do. Let's get this over with. Boom.
Do you want to start recording first? Okay, whatever. You do the intro.
I don't know what the intro is going to be. Welcome. I am a man.
Well done.
Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Force Feelings and Emotions, the rebooted version, because it's 2020 and everything is getting rebooted nowadays. I'd like to invite a guest to join us.
Once I'm just a guest, it's more of a co-host at this point.
You're a guest for now. I can replace you at any time. Let's get on with this.
Love it.
What's your name?
Okay, I'm Dan. Nice to meet you. I'm an alcoholic.
Wonderful. What's your first piece of news, Dan? Oh yeah, before I get into it, this is just a random weekly news roundup show that's stuff we like. Anyway, Dan, move on.
Alright, so the biggest news in the past week has been Microsoft acquiring ZeniMax.
Yes. What are your thoughts, feelings, and emotions on it?
Well, it means that Xbox now own the right to all of the Bethesda games, which is big one being Skyrim, and all of the Fallout.
They own
id
Software, who does Doom. They own Arcane Studios, who does... currently it's kind of an interesting thing with that, because they own Arcane Studios, which is the developer of Deathloop, which is a PlayStation 5 exclusive timed. So...
yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. That is.
Currently, they have decided that they will honor the exclusive, and they own another studio in it, which is doing Ghostwire Tokyo, which is another PlayStation 5 exclusive.
Yeah,
I
don't do that. But...
so currently, it's the one with the weird like anime ghost in whatever. It's a weird looking game. Kind of looks cool, but it's they own that, so it's kind of blocked. Well, they haven't blocked PlayStation from having those as exclusives yet, but I think what this basically means is that Microsoft now has a big playing... oh, by the way, it should have been mentioned that it was for $7.5 billion.
Yeah, I was about to say that, but you kind of just kept talking. I was like, I'm not going to interrupt you.
Yeah,
it's big purchase.
Well, it's bigger than what Disney paid for Star Wars, Marvel. It's what...
yeah, incredible. But the big question is, what are they going to do with all those games? Are they going to make them Xbox exclusives?
They won't. I doubt they will. They'll make newer titles stuff, but they won't take existing franchises and make them exclusives. No. They'll get far too much backlash.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyone who is on a PlayStation and wants to play a Fallout or the new Elder Scrolls games or a new Doom, they will be pissed at Microsoft if they make them exclusives. Microsoft is in their entire right to make them exclusives.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
Microsoft isn't sort of as clearly as exclusive heavy as Sony, because Microsoft, when they purchased Mojang to get Minecraft, they still let it go onto every other platform in existence.
That's true, but also when they acquired Mojang, they allowed cross compatibility between Xbox and Windows 10.
Yeah,
which could be similar case for the other games that they might do.
Yeah,
and they might add.
Entirely possible.
I'm 100% sure that they're going to add all these games to the Xbox Game Pass.
Oh yeah,
because
Doom's already going on it.
Yeah, that's Xbox's big money making scheme.
Well,
that's what they're pushing for everything right now.
Yeah,
is that Game Pass, and even when they're selling the new consoles,
Microsoft has stated that their main competition isn't Nintendo and PlayStation anymore. It's fucking Google and Amazon.
Yeah, because streaming those game services.
Because Amazon...
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a good deal.
Another piece of news, Amazon just released their... well, in the United States at least, has released their Project Luna or whatever it's called, which is their answer to Google Stadia and Project Game Pass. So,
true. However, Google Stadia isn't much of a success right now.
Google Stadia was all right, but it's just buggy and you have to pay for everything, which is what I think.
Yeah.
If anyone's gonna succeed, it's potentially going to be Amazon, because Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon got so much money; they just keep shoving money into that thing.
Yeah, but so does Google. The thing is that everyone, because when the news broke about the Microsoft purchase of ZeniMax, everyone jumped onto what's Sony going to buy. And you got to remember, Sony doesn't have nearly as much money to play around with as Microsoft. Microsoft.
They did buy Insomniac.
Yeah, but comparatively, that's one game.
I mean, it's a lot smaller, but they did buy. They do acquire companies.
But
at the end of the day, do Sony need to acquire these companies more? They've already got these big exclusives, God of War, Spider-Man.
Yes, but what you're remembering, Dan, is the companies that they're buying, Guerrilla and Insomniac, were already PlayStation exclusives. That wasn't taking away any third-party development software, basically, because a lot of the Insomniac games and Guerrilla games were just built for PlayStations to go on PlayStations as console exclusives, but they weren't owned by Sony. What Sony did was buy them to make them exclusives, because Insomniac did a Xbox exclusive game. I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to remember the fucking name of it. It was like you shoot soda. It was and it was a zombie shooter thing. I can't remember the thing, and it was like a parkour-y game. It looked all right, but it was an Xbox exclusive. But that was an Insomniac game.
Yeah.
So Insomniac then went back to Sony and made the Spider-Man game. And
there's a lot of questions sort of surrounding. I've heard on the internet. If Sony didn't buy Insomniac, would the Spider-Man game be an exclusive?
Well, they own the rights to Spider-Man, so it would be.
That's true, but Insomniac...
They don't need to buy Insomniac, they just license it out. So they make it, and then because they license it out, they have the say on what platforms it goes on.
However, Insomniac would have pushed upon Xbox. They could have made a lot more money if it went
not
to
necessarily.
Xbox. Well, I mean, Insomniac would have made a lot more money. Sony wouldn't. Sony would lose out on a lot of money.
Yeah.
Sony made so much money from that Spider-Man game, not just with the game.
But there's also the argument that because Microsoft had very few consoles sold, you're not going to get that many people going onto
of course
it.
Not.
And if you've got the player base, you want that Sony player base, and it's also one of the biggest selling games on PlayStation, and that sold 100 million. So you got the potential of 100 million people buying it. It doesn't sell 100 million, but it gets a lot of sales because people are already on the platform.
The point I was going to make was I know people have bought the PS4 console just to play Spider-Man.
Yes, that's the point.
Or just play God of War, or just to play Uncharted, or just play Last of Us.
That's what Sony is good at. Sony is good at getting a console-defining game, like a game that defines the console, and gets people to buy hardware. Microsoft isn't trying to do that.
No,
Microsoft is trying to get people onto a software. They're not trying to get people to buy Xboxes. That's why they released a 250 quid cheaper version of their current high-end one, because they know people aren't going to buy their super expensive one, because people are already just going to go to Sony anyway. The demand for the Sony one, as looked at by the fact that I am one of the only few people in the world who has the pre-order, is kind of just a statement as to how much of people want it. Granted, Xbox did sell out of the pre-orders for the Xbox Series X. I hate their naming system. It's so dumb.
Well,
and also, on that point, because of how dumb Xbox naming system is, in the Amazon charts, the Xbox One X, which is the current one, not the new gen, went up in terms of page views by like 747%.
No, it wasn't page views. It was actually orders.
No, it wasn't. It's page. It's traffic, basically. How much traffic, and that's how many times people visited the page, and it went up by 747% because that's the traffic that it was bringing in. Because people didn't. Well, it's either a bunch of old people who were trying to buy it for their kids but didn't realize there was a different console that was selling out because you could get onto the Xbox One X. But you couldn't get onto the Xbox One. Fucking, I hate their naming convention.
It's not that hard.
It's so
Series
dumb.
X, Series S.
Yes, but it's 1X, 1S, Series S, Series X.
It would have made more sense to have the 2X or 2S.
Yeah, well, they didn't. And because the reason why they didn't is because Xbox 2 is less than 5, and people are stupid and think it's worse than a 5. That's why Sony's kept it their naming convention for years, and it's just crisp and nice and clean. It's boring, but it works.
Yeah. But the Series S didn't actually sell out.
Hmm?
The Series S didn't sell out.
No.
Which answers the question of, do people actually want to buy the console more?
No. Microsoft's already lost. you can guarantee it. They won't sell as much hardware because they're not.
I would say that they've definitely lost in terms of units sold, but I'm not sure if they've lost to the profit.
No, they'll make way more money. I'm not disputing them. They'll make more money.
They've got the subscription service for the consoles. There's like £50 or £20. I'm not sure how much it is.
It's 25 quid.
Yeah, well, it's
25 quid for Game Pass, and you can buy the console with it.
Yeah, it's two different ones, but like it's like renting the console. But I haven't done too much research on it.
Well,
they want to get people to get that Game Pass.
Yeah.
Or the Game Pass Ultimate. That is their money making scheme.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
Yeah, I know that. That's not. My point is, Microsoft isn't trying to sell hardware.
No, 100%. I mean, they said they've already.
Because Microsoft,
they know they're not going to compete.
Well, Microsoft's never been a hardware developer; they're a software developer.
100%, yeah.
When Sony has always been hardware and software second. Microsoft's been software first, hardware second.
However, the hardware limitations are getting extremely bigger in the tech world. Like hardware, we're reaching the limit on how much more we can improve our hardware.
That's why Microsoft's going into the upgradable program, because what they're trying to do is after 2 years they'll bring out a new console, and then people will get that on their.
The thing is, like in 2 years' time, the hardware isn't going to improve that much.
Microsoft's switching to the mobile service program, where you go onto a program, you pay for half of it, you pay for it over 2 years, and then you get a new one. That's what Microsoft's trying to do. They're still going to try and get you to buy a console, but they're not going to push it. They're going to try and get you on the service, and then you get wrapped in, and then boom, you've spent 10 grand in 5 months.
That's a bit of an exaggeration, but all right.
Some people do.
Some people do, like you on Destiny.
Yes, me on Destiny.
Yeah, a lot of money on that game.
Yes, it's upwards of 700 quid plus now.
Oh my god, that's so much money.
It's really not. It's a good game franchise. That's what I want. I really want. If Sony wants to do something to kick Microsoft, buy Bungie, an ex
that would be
Microsoft.
Huge.
It wouldn't. Bungie isn't as big as Bungie.
Well, no, I suppose
it's
actually right because now it's independent. They're not making a lot of money.
Yeah, they could buy it, but it's just one studio. Microsoft's bought one company that owns several studios that make highly acclaimed games.
It would be funny if they bought Bungie because of the Halo.
Yeah, I know, that's my point. But if Sony, as soon as the Xbox thing announced on Twitter, people were trying to get Sony to buy, begging Sony to buy the Konami, the people of Metal Gear and some other stuff, like those franchises, Silent Hill, all of those sorts of games, because Sony has had a partnership with them in the past where they've had console exclusives. Silent Hill was going to be a PlayStation exclusive before Konami cancelled it. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And they just wanted to. I think in the past people have speculated that Sony might buy Rockstar.
I don't know.
I don't think that would happen. But the thing is, there's been so many. I'm curious because there's been so many rumors about Warner Brothers trying to sell off their games division, and the big contender for that was Apple. If Sony wanted to make a move, if they bought Warner Brothers Montreal and the game studio division of that would be huge.
Do Sony actually need to buy these companies? Because these companies are going to be looking, where do we want to sell our games? And they're going to want to sell it on the console that has the most people on it. Of course, PC has probably more than anything else, but people on PC are very niche. A lot of times they only play one game and then only slightly diverge.
Dan, what you're forgetting is when you go onto Game Pass, they pay you to go on it. Microsoft pays people to go on their Game Pass service. Microsoft in-house games are their the first party stuff is theirs, so they just put it on their first day anyway. But when they have a game that isn't on isn't a Microsoft exclusive developed under Microsoft, they pay them to get it on there. They basically pay the entire cost of the game so that they can get that onto their platform as a selling point. It's the same thing with PlayStation Plus. They pay it to get them onto those things. For Fall Guys, PlayStation Plus, they paid them a lot of money. Epic Games, paying people to go onto their service to get them on so that they have a selling point.
Yeah,
so
brings people in.
Yeah, because Epic Games, every game that you get for free, every game that is exclusive to Epic has paid the developer basically the entire cost of their game's development to go on there, and then some. So they will make more money doing that than they would if they just went independent on trying to do it on Steam or on just Epic normally, because it's an incentive to get people on, to get them onto the platform, and then they're locked into the platform. Do you get me?
100%, but the point I was trying to make was that does Sony actually need to acquire all these companies? So Microsoft acquiring ZeniMax and Bethesda, it means they can put all their games onto the Game Pass for free.
Yeah.
I mean, it means they'll save a lot of money that way, right?
Yeah.
But do Sony actually need to acquire these companies? Because these companies, the game companies, will want to put it on. I would say they want to put it on PlayStation more than they would Xbox.
It's a very
Forgetting PC right now. If you didn't have this Game Pass or everything else, companies would look. Oh, PlayStation have got more units. There's a more player base. We want to put it on PlayStation more than we do Xbox.
But if Microsoft gives them the numbers of how many people are subscribed to Game Pass, and maybe the hardware isn't, because you can, like you said, you can do it on computer. So all they have to do is show the numbers of Game Pass, and also
the thing is, how much money can they make from Game Pass?
It's an interesting thing because they don't have the subscriber base at the moment to be maybe sustainable. Sony has even stated that they're not going to go down this subscription pass thing because they don't think it's sustainable, because they're paying like upwards of 100 million per game for their in-house studio ones, and they don't think it's worth they don't think it's financially sensible to put all of their high-level games onto a subscription service and not get as much money from paying the full 40 to 70 quid now payment.
Because at the end of the day, when a consumer buys a game, let's say from release, normally it's about 50 quid, around that mark. Well, the developer will see an exact amount of that 50 quid for each unit sold.
No, they won't.
It's not exact?
No, Sony,
like
if you buy it off,
right?
it takes off, you take off like 30% if you buy it off the store.
Right, yeah, but my point is, like they'll know for, like, depending on hardware or software copies, initially you'll know how much money you'll make from each sale.
Yeah.
Right? The thing is, you won't know that amount from Game Pass. It's more of a risk.
Well,
because
it's there's no
I
guarantee
know
that your game will
that
be
Xbox
seen.
could put it in there.
Yeah, there's no guarantee. You can get drowned out by all the other ones.
Exactly. There's so many games on the Game Pass.
Yeah.
Is it really worth it? You're not how much money are you gonna make from it?
I will tell you who it's worth though for. It's worth it for disabled people. And I'll tell you why. Because basically, if you're a disabled person and you're spending like 70 quid, most of the time you're not working, or if you are working, you're earning not much money because you're on like disability paychecks and stuff like that. So if you're spending 70 quid on a game, that it is currently now, because Godfall is like 70 quid, Spider-Man, Miles Morales is like 70 quid now.
Very expensive.
And they don't have accessibility features enabled on their game. You've just spent 70 quid on a game and you can't play it.
That's true.
So if you had a Game Pass subscription where you could play all the latest games day one and find out if you can play it for like 25 quid a month, and it's a good thing for you, because you can basically, or for lower income families, you don't want to be spending 70, like the average person buys 4 games a year on average. I think it's 4 games a year.
I mean, I've not bought a lot.
Exactly. I get most of my games for free because of Epic and PlayStation.
Yeah, same. That's pretty much every game. I think the last game I bought was Modern Warfare last year.
Like the games I've bought this year are Other Side, Last of Us 2, and the Avengers game.
Yeah.
And those are the ones I remember buying this year. Everything else has either been off the PlayStation Plus store or I haven't really bought it. The point I'm trying to make is that if you're in if you don't want to pay a lot of money to buy a game and then find out you can't play it, and also if you buy a game and then you don't enjoy it, what are you going to do? You just give it back to a store and they give you like 20 quid out of a 40 quid, 50 quid purchase, or you
also to do with disability, Xbox did release that disability controller.
Yeah,
which I think is a very good thing to do, really. I haven't seen Sony do it. I haven't seen them do it.
They don't necessarily need to do it if Microsoft's got one, because it plugs into the Sony console.
Because I actually didn't know that.
Well, it's meant to go onto anything. You can plug it into anything. People have plugged it into wheelchairs and stuff for their kids. So
just drive your wheelchair like an Xbox controller.
No, it's for the handle, like the steering stick on wheelchairs. Yeah. You can plug those into the thing.
That'd be great. Just have a little toddler on the back, just controlling. A guy's wheelchair.
Yeah,
an Xbox controller.
Just because if you're used to using a joystick on your wheelchair, then you plug it into your controller port, and boom, it will work. And then you don't have to.
It's a very good thing to do. I like it.
Yeah,
I mean, of course, I'm not going to use it, but it's a good thing. Something right. Also, the PS5 sold out on the pre-orders.
Yep, mentioned that. I got
to
one.
change the subject a little bit. You got one.
Got one.
They went out of stock pretty much everywhere within 2 days. Argos had the release next day, but that's still sold out the day.
Someone from my work spent about an hour in a queue and then got to the basket and they all dropped out and he couldn't get them.
Very sad.
Mm.
But we had discussion sort of privately, but do you think that Sony intended for that to happen?
No, I don't think they intended it to happen, but I think it was to be expected and they should have been better prepared. At least, because it's not Sony's fault, because it's basically every store that couldn't handle the servers.
Yeah, it's true. There's so many people.
They're not responsible for other companies' servers and them not putting in the manpower to put the server up, basically, because you can predict that sort of shit, and they should have known because of the 500 million edition console fiasco.
Yeah, that's true.
Where the exact same thing happened again. Stores released them early, and then people bought them up, and then I was really worried because they then cancelled all the pre-orders of the 500 million if you bought it at the time of when they accidentally released them.
You're a bit upset about that.
Yes, because I got one, and then they cancelled it, and then I couldn't get it when they did the sale thing. Because the exact same thing happened again. Their servers crashed, and it annoyed me. And now you can only get them for like 700 quid plus. And it bugs the shit out of me because I really want that console. It looks so nice.
But the sort of difference is, like, the limited edition one, there was only, 50,000?
Yeah, something like that.
But the PS5 is millions.
Yeah.
They're sold out about at the same time.
Yeah. But people are desperate and sad and lonely and want to play games.
100% true. But
like me.
Sony have just said that they've got loads more in stock they could put onto the pre-order. So why weren't they in the first place?
Because they're not here yet. Sony are making 10 million, but that's by the end of the year. They don't have all the stock coming in because they have to airship it.
No, Sony just sent a tweet that the more will be available soon.
Yeah.
To pre-order. And it was. Mike got one, didn't he?
Yeah, but that's not... No, Dan, they're getting them in, but it's very expensive to get them in because if they send them by boat, they take weeks and months to get here. They have to send them by plane, and that's a very expensive thing. So they're sending over very limited amounts, essentially, probably, to limit how much they have to send over until... I imagine what they're doing is sending in a massive amount, or maybe a minimum amount of, like, maybe 5 million at the moment, just to get them into stores. And that is a lot of transport.
But do you not think that it selling out has increased its popularity even more than it was?
Well,
because people want what they can't have. Like with your 500 million edition, like you want that console quite a bit.
Yeah.
But do you want it more because it sold out and you couldn't get it?
No, I wanted it really badly when it was a thing.
Because when I went to pre-order it, and then I was like, I don't know if I want it or not, so I didn't have it. But then as soon as I saw it was sold out, immediately I actually really wanted it. So for you, you already wanted it, right? Yeah. PS5 console, whatever. For other people who are kind of indecisive on it, and they saw it was sold out.
It does make it limited supply. It does entice people.
So they saw it sold out, which means if that wasn't sold out before, and it was just like they could have pre-ordered it at any time, they might not have done it. They might have waited a little longer because they said, "Oh, I've waited this long, I might as well just wait longer." Well, now that it's sold out, they're thinking in their heads, "I need to get it as soon as possible because I missed my chance and I don't want to miss it again."
Yeah, it's entirely possible, but I don't think it's planned limited supply. Unlike Nintendo, who purposefully, whenever they release like amiibos, they release very limited quantities to get people to want them, and then they put the ones they know people want, like a Mario amiibo, and they'll put very limited, but they'll put like a Toad or something that people maybe want but aren't so sure as like massive quantities, so that they'll or the lesser known ones like a fucking I can't remember any Nintendo characters that are like not popular, but they'll put like one of those in higher supply so that when people get there and they can't get a Mario, they'll go, oh, I'll get this other one because I need to at least buy something because otherwise this is a wasted trip. That's how Nintendo does amiibo sales and stuff like that. It's really creepy, like dodgy shit, and they'll deny it, but it is how they do it.
So, talk about things going out of stock and servers. Mm-hmm. The RTX 3080 launched.
Yep. And
that was even more of a mess than PS5 was.
They're about comparative. Also, the Xbox One crashed as well, so...
pretty much everyone crashed.
Everyone wants the new stuff.
Well, all these big companies, they said we're going to limit the pre-orders because we're in this financial crisis right now and people can't afford it and are unable to buy it. Well, that doesn't seem to be happening.
No, what they're trying to do is stop scalpers from fucking cramming and buying multiple consoles and then reselling them. That's what they're trying to limit. They're trying to limit people trying to resell in massive parts. Because what happens is people can flood a store page with bots and they'll snap up as many purchases as they can in the clusterfuck of everyone else trying to get them. And because it's a bot, it's an automated process, so it just goes bang, 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 bang. There's no human error in it. There's no accidentally misclicking the wrong button. And
Well, no, that's limiting. That's them limiting it to one per person, right?
Yeah.
But my point is, like, they've limited the amount they've made in the first place. So they've reduced the amount of PS5s they made to how many PS4s they made. When
no,
they released.
they upped the production.
Did they? I thought they lowered it.
No, it was
No, but before this pre-order, like they said they were going to lower it.
no. It was 5 million units by the end of the year, but they upped it to 10 million.
Yeah, but actually it was 5 million, right?
Yeah, but they upped.
So because they
They
at that
upped
point
the
they thought
production.
it was going to be.
No, but basically what happened was coronavirus hit and everyone stayed at home playing video games. So they went, oh, people really want new stuff. And we can get more money out of people if we sell the newer stuff and get them at the end of the year when everyone's going, this coronavirus thing hasn't blown over. Do you get me?
Yeah. I thought they lowered it though. I thought it was
they
higher than
increased
they
it.
lowered it down.
No, they increased the production.
Wow.
They went from
Yeah.
5 million to 10 million.
Yeah.
I don't know what Microsoft unit says, but Sony is trying to aim for 10 million plus by the end of first quarter of next year, I think.
And I can see it happening.
Yeah, but there's also been rumors that their chipsets are crashing and stuff because like they're having like a less than 50% success rate on hardware. So
Yeah.
you never
Also,
know.
like, not to go into too much specifics, but they've kind of got a weird CPU set up with a variable speed limit, which is a bit odd to have in a console. It's very common to have in a mobile phone, but it's a bit weird to have in a console.
Well, I think it's to do with their SSD.
Yeah, it's gonna be something to do like that, but it's still kind of weird thing to do.
Yeah, but Sony's always been a weird one. The PlayStation 3 is a completely different architecture to
the PS3 is just it's like the odd
It's
thing
actually
to do, isn't it?
incredibly advanced, but it's just
Well, that's the problem. It was too advanced. It was really hard to make games for.
Yeah.
Like
But-
if you look at sort of
the beginning and
the-
the end. Look at the
yeah.
Uncharted games. Look at the first Uncharted game, and then look at the last one. It looks incredibly better towards the end of the cycle. Look at The Last of Us. The Last
Yeah.
of Us is like one of the best looking games on PlayStation 3, and it's because Naughty Dog finally like developed enough games and learnt the engine enough to be able to build on PlayStation 3 architecture and make good looking games.
but I've also had reports that the PS5 is incredibly easy to make games for.
Well, yeah, it's just a PC.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it pretty much is these days.
That's
It's
why
it's a-
PlayStation 4 sold so well because they just made it a PC.
Well, the
But they made
CPU
it a
is a
standardized PC.
Zen 3. Yeah, the CPU is AMD Zen 3 architecture, which is exactly the same as a PC, and the GPU is an RDNA 2 chip,
Yeah, well,
which is it's a PC.
it's the Android versus Apple problem because if you go on a platform and it's the exact same across everything and you can develop for just this platform and you know the platform, you can use all the tricks in the world and make it look as shiny and new on that platform. But as soon as you try and port it over to something else, it looks crap. But
Yeah.
if you're on an Android phone, you have to develop for every single Android phone on
Which is impossible. It can't be done.
No, which is why after a few years you get people cutting out old versions of Android. So, like, I think WhatsApp cut out a bunch of Android operating systems because they just couldn't be asked to develop for it anymore. And so people who had older phones couldn't use WhatsApp because they just stopped making the app on those older versions of Android.
Well, one of the biggest problems with that is the cameras in third-party apps,
Yeah.
like Instagram or TikTok nowadays. The camera quality will look significantly worse
Well, yeah,
in the app.
they
than compared to the
suppress the audio video quality. I have an 8K.
Well, it's
video.
more to the fact that the actual camera app in the smartphone
Of course.
that's developed by the manufacturers like Samsung, that software is designed to work with that hardware and only with that hardware.
Mhm.
Whereas these third-party apps, like every single camera module will work differently, and they can't optimize it for every single one. So they just have to optimize it generically so it works for every single one.
Well, I'm pretty sure. I think Snapchat doesn't record from the camera; it records from the screen. I'm pretty sure on an Android.
Yeah, the thing is, at that point, like, it's still. I don't know if it's still using the optimization software. It probably won't use the optimization software that's intended from that manufacturer, because
Yeah.
that software is embedded within the camera app, not
Yeah.
within the actual software of the phone.
But that's on the
Other than
developers.
the phone.
That's not on the manufacturers. Like,
Yeah, so my point. The thing is, like, the developers can't they can't create this optimization for every single
yeah,
like Android phone. It's impossible, and it's why Apple phones will always look better in these third-party apps, because they will optimize it for that Apple phone.
Yeah, I don't dispute that. I
It
just
will
don't
always
care.
happen.
I just couldn't care less because I don't take photos and I
Yeah.
don't really give a shit if an Apple looks better.
Well, it's why Apple, their biggest market is mainly sort of this social market, where people who use social media on a daily basis, people who like Instagram models or whatever, these people are the biggest market.
Yeah, influencers. Also, it's because Apple's a brand that is synonymous with new and
Like
exciting.
Apple's like Gucci.
Yeah, even though it's
More or less.
nothing like it's bottom of the barrel like tech at the moment.
Well, the actual hardware is
It's all right.
not like it's good. It's not the best hardware, but it's good hardware. Whereas Android phones, you'll notice like the batteries, the bit bigger one, where it's like a significantly bigger battery, but they have the same battery performance.
What?
And it's because the Apple phones are all optimized to work.
No, Apple
With-
phones are terrible for battery life, Dan.
No. They sound terrible. Things. If you do an actual battery test, they will last maybe slightly less longer than an Android phone is. But that battery is so much smaller that it should be a lot worse battery life, but it's not. The reason why Apple phones have got bad battery life is because they've generally got a small battery.
Well,
And to have that small battery, to have it last that long is quite impressive. And that's how iOS is just that efficient. So they save money making on those batteries, and they put other components or whatever in there. I don't know what they're doing, not having a bigger battery.
Mm.
But their software is optimized to work with that hardware. So they can have lower quality hardware and then have a similar software experience, experience for the user by using their software optimization.
yeah, yes, it's an interesting thing. I'm personally not a fan of Apple just because they claim to be something that they're not. They claim to be this innovator of tech and everything, and it's just like, no, you used to be. You used to have a person who did that, and used to have like a bunch of new ideas. You created the smartphone, you created it, but you're kind of just hanging on to it at this point. Since
One of the biggest innovators of tech is Samsung,
yeah, you look at
100%. And they've even now put a patent in for a transparent phone.
yes. I don't understand how that works, and I don't see the application for it as a phone. I can see it as an
Yeah.
application for cars, though.
Cars, what do you mean, like, as part of the windscreen?
Yeah, because if
Well,
you...
they've already got holographic displays for windscreens.
Yeah, I know, but that's like a hologram. That's just a projection going up onto the screen. If you
True,
actually had...
That's what works.
Yeah, but it's not great. It looks kind of bad as well sometimes, depending on what it is, because it's just like a couple lasers hitting a screen, and it's not the greatest thing. But if you integrated it into like self-driving cars, and you had it so that it could black out, and you could have a massive TV screen in there and whatnot as the front windshield,
That would be cool.
that's my point. I don't see the application as a phone, because if you put it down on a desk, you're just going to lose it.
Well, OnePlus have already made a phone where the glass turns black. It's the OnePlus Concept One.
Well, there's the glasses in like hotels and stuff, where if you run an electric current through it, it goes from clear to like the foggy, like
Yeah, like foggy white.
yeah, and
Yeah, that's cool. I've seen those.
yeah, it's impressive stuff. But I mean, if I don't know if I see the point of a phone having it.
Yeah, I made the exact
I
point.
can see the other. I can see the other applications of it being like for windows and storefronts and everything, and you don't have to have massive TV displays anymore. You just have clear panel glass, and then you can just have images and stuff scroll across the screen without any like hesitation of like borders and stuff. 'Cause
And the other issue would be sort of the visibility aspect. If you're trying to look at white text on a transparent phone, and your transparent phone is over a white background, you're not going to be able to see that text.
yeah, so
It'd be very hard to see it.
well, what they'd probably end up doing is just having a black. I don't know how it works because I looked at it, but I couldn't understand it because all I could see was a couple videos and like a couple articles about it, but they didn't actually explain properly how it worked from what I could see.
Well, they've now invented transparent OLED panels. That's
Yeah.
possible. The Xiaomi, I think, is the first company to have actual transparent TV,
Also,
which also doesn't really make a sense
yeah,
because you have to have it against a black background.
yeah, it's an interesting design. I don't think they'll ever release it as an actual thing, except if
No.
I think they'll do it if they want to just have like a showcase. They'll do it as like what's the word I'm trying to think of, the
Exhibition?
yeah, like a show, like a not a showcase, like a project that's just like a big thing to show that we can do this, but we're never gonna do it because there's
Yeah.
there's
They've done
no
it before.
actual purpose for it. It's just look at this thing that we can do, sort of.
Well, it's kind of similar to foldable phones in a way.
Oh
But
no,
there
I
isn't-
see the purpose of a foldable phone.
I don't really see the purpose of them,
No.
personally.
I see it as if they make it so that they get multiple folds. Because if you can get multiple folds and you can get a massive screen down to the size of something else, the applications for that are quite impressive. Because you think about it, if you had the ability to fold like your monitor down to the size of your
So I've seen a laptop, a foldable laptop.
Yeah.
And what it is, it's a whole display, and you can fold it in half, and then you can use a keyboard on the laptop and see, the actual. And it comes with a portable keyboard, so you can open it up, use it as a full monitor. I see it as that aspect, but I don't see the point of it being in a foldable phone.
The point of it is, Dan, most people don't actually watch videos. Like the younger generation don't actually watch their videos on TVs or monitors or anything like that. Most teenagers and stuff go to their phone. So if you have and you're watching it on a small screen, if you could then open up your screen and make it bigger, and you have it as a tablet size, but you don't have to carry a massive tablet because in a bag or something, because you can fold it down and put it in your pocket. That's an appeal.
But people do carry tablets. So tablets are now being used as notepads in schools and stuff. So all these kids are like very slowly. In future, it could very be possible that everyone owns a tablet instead of writing notes in schools, which means every student is going to own a tablet.
Yeah, but if you can
in that aspect, why would you want a foldable phone?
Because you eliminate the tablet. You don't need the tablet if you've got the foldable phone. You have
the
both.
Tablet is like a lot bigger than like the foldable phone.
Yeah, but you can get bigger foldable phones. They'll just make bigger foldable phones.
But it wouldn't work. It would be so thick. It defeats the point of having it be able to fit in your pocket.
Not if they make it. They can. I'm sure they can figure something out to make it smaller.
Well, the biggest problem is the battery.
Yeah.
I mean, there is future battery technology, solid state being one of them, that could produce that effect.
Well, that's the biggest. That's the biggest holdback of any tech thing is batteries, because batteries just don't.
It's a new gold rush.
Well, yeah, they can't. There's very little innovation in batteries at the moment. And so that it's just a battle to find out if you can make a different battery that can hold a charge but is small enough. It's the problem with electric cars.
Yeah. Well, the two most promising battery techs right now is solid state batteries and graphene. The graphene will be the replacement of lithium because we're running out of lithium, and solid state's a new type of battery material. So instead of having a liquid electrolyte, it's a solid glass. But supposedly that removes all the thermal issues, and you can have it a lot smaller in size, have the same capacity.
The interesting thing I saw, but I don't know how true it is they've made a brick that can hold electricity.
I have not seen that, and I don't know. I mean, technically it's true. I mean, it depends on the electrolyte.
I don't know. I just
saw
the clickbait headline of a brick that can hold electricity, and it was.
Yeah, I wouldn't believe that.
I don't know.
Unless the brick had some sort of weird material inside it.
Yeah, I imagine it is.
It wouldn't be a brick at that point.
Well, it's a brick and brick name, but not brick texture, I guess.
Yeah.
But what is a brick, Dan? Let's go.
I mean, technically, you could have a power bank as a brick if you wanted to. There you go. You got a brick that can hold a charge.
Yeah, but yeah, it's an interesting insight if they did manage to do it, and you could put an actual electrical current in it, and then use it as a battery to store your heatings, like your house's power in the house, rather than having battery charging stations on your house.
I mean, the two biggest problems with the current battery technology is overheating and running out. So the overheating is caused by the electrolyte, and what it is, the lithium inside it. It's usually a liquid, but over time it turns into a solid, and that solid creates more heat. So they're really inefficient. So if you apply more current into it, the batteries explode. So we saw in the Galaxy Note 7s, the batteries were exploding, and it wasn't to the battery; it was to do with the circuit just before it.
Yeah,
there was a failure on the current regulation, so it was just applying more current into it. Yeah. That is the problem with that technology. You have that limitation.
Yeah.
What to do? This solid state battery is supposedly going to remove that completely, and you'll be able to chuck hundreds of amps into it without having that overheating problem.
It's a cost to it's just a cost thing. If it's expensive to have, then people aren't going to buy it unless they're massive corporations, and the average person won't see it for years. And
one of the most expensive things in a Tesla cars isn't the battery, it's the cooling on the battery. Because like I said, those battery chargers put hundreds of amps into those batteries at a time, but that causes a lot of heat, and you have to dissipate it. So they have like liquid cooling on top of it to take that heat out of it, because it needs to be taken out. It's the only way you can charge it that fast.
Well,
but if you had that solid state batteries, supposedly, if they work, I mean, the current thesis are there, you wouldn't need it, and it could greatly reduce the cost of electric cars.
Yeah, I don't know much. The only thing I know is batteries need to be innovated on really and improved, and it's a slow and tedious process, sadly.
Yeah.
And that's why you get very minor changes on phones, basically, because they just don't need.
There's really not much more phones can do. Phones have pretty much reached their limit. Like, if you look at your phone,
Well, that's why the innovation of the foldable phone is an interesting thing, because it forces software developers into a new market.
Yeah.
Because they can then innovate on a platform that is completely different, and you can do multiple things at the same time. You can have a YouTube video open up whilst scrolling through your internet browser, or you on Twitter or something like that.
I mean, you see multiple companies doing it. LG released a phone that you could slide up and turn into a display as well.
Yeah,
which is a very interesting one.
It's a weird fucking phone. I don't see the point in that.
Asus have now released a laptop that has multiple displays.
Yeah, that one I like. I like the laptop side of it. If you have multiple screens on a laptop, because I like the little touchscreen bar at the top of the keyboard and stuff, where you have just all your maps and stuff go down there. And it was rumored that the PlayStation 5's touch control bar thing was going to be a screen. I think early days of PlayStation 4 rumors and early days of PlayStation 5 rumors, where it wasn't going to be just a black bar or box and stuff, but it was actually going to be a fully touch screen where you had you could get, if developers utilized it, they could put maps down there or have inventory space on there and stuff like that. So it was just,
I mean, it would be a very cool feature. The only thing is, it would only apply to first party games.
Not necessarily. It just depends on what the developers choose to use it for.
But the developers wouldn't want to spend time just do that.
Yeah,
they would spend time doing bug fixes on the overall platform, unless it's an exclusive. Only if it would be an exclusive, they would actually focus on time on that.
Nah, because it depends. Because Nintendo's first party.
Some games I have seen for the touchpad, they've I don't remember what it was, but you could swipe on it.
The Last of Us 2 has it as the main feature of it is when you play a guitar, you can use the touchpad as the strings. So
that's an exclusive, right?
Yeah.
So I'm talking about third-party games. I think I have seen a couple games where it actually makes use of that swiping motion.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that's a lot easier to code in than writing on the display.
Well, what most of them do is just make it as a map button.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But the thing is, it's the old select button. That's all it is.
Yeah,
really.
Because they got rid of, they made it a share button.
Yeah. Well, the share's an entirely new button, but the big touchpad button is a select button.
Yes, that's what I was saying, because they replaced the select button with a share button, you dumb fuck.
Yeah.
So they needed to put a select button on it, so they made it the touchpad.
Well, while we're talking about the PS5 controllers, they've added a lot of new features to it. I think my thing I like the most is the adaptive triggers.
Yes, going back to the Microsoft ZeniMax thing with Deathloop, which is now owned by, the studio is now owned by Microsoft, and one of their games is whenever your gun jams in the game, the controller triggers jam on your controller.
Yeah, which sounds really annoying. You just can't put it in whatsoever.
Yeah, so until you fix the trigger on the game, you can't pull your trigger on the controller.
But that makes a lot more interesting and of immersion.
Yeah,
to the game.
Well, that's the whole point of them, is to try and make you feel like you're pulling back a bow on a bow. So you'll feel tension in the controller when you're pulling back. That's the sort
and also both consoles, Xbox and PlayStation, have better haptics as well.
Well, Xbox has had haptic for ages. They had it in the standard Xbox One, I'm pretty sure.
No, it was only in the Pro version. It wasn't in the standard one.
Yeah.
They released a Pro controller, Elite controller, and they had it in there.
I don't.
It wasn't in the standard one.
Well, it's now going to be standard.
And they both got haptics now, so you feel vibration in your fingers. So that I think that's sort of where games are going now. It's more the graphics and everything that's already there. They can't really improve it much more.
Well,
it can't get much more better than it already is.
Well, the issue that they run into is the uncanny valley, which is where an AI software gets too close to human realistics, but not close enough, and the brain just rejects it. It's why you go mostly cartoony, and it's the problem that games will run into if they try and make them super realistic, because when you try and make character look incredibly realistic, but it hits. It's like a graph where it goes up, 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 and then just suddenly drops down, and then goes back up again. And it's incredibly weird. If you look at Uncanny Valley stuff, you'll like see the face, and it's like super realistic. But there's just a thing that you can't see straight away that makes it look creepy. It's why like ventriloquist dummies and stuff creep people out, because it looks,
it's talking.
It looks human, but it isn't human, and it
sounds human as well.
And
it's got different voice,
and it's got all the features of a person. It's got the eyes, the ears, the mouth, the nose, the stuff, but it just doesn't connect with your brain as looking like a human. So it's a weird disconnect on your brain. But that's the problem that developers and stuff will run into if they try and make games look incredible. That's why nature and stuff looks incredible, but faces on things look sort of weird, even though the actual design of them is incredibly detailed. Because even in The Last of Us, incredibly detailed facial animations, but even in the back of my head, something still looks a bit off about them. And I love that game, but it's just like they're some of the most digitally impressive character models. There's a scene where a character takes off a shirt and it doesn't clip, it folds, it ruffles and textures and everything, and it doesn't look stilted and like jittery, and it just works.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like sometimes the brain notices subtle differences more than sort of huge differences.
Yeah, but that's
so it's like if you have a picture and it's like slightly skew-if, your brain will notice it and go, it's slightly skew-if, and it'll really annoy you. Well, if that picture is completely wonky, you'll be like, oh, it's fine.
Well, that's the problem with people who are developing for VR have to figure out, is the reason why you get motion sickness is because your body thinks you're being poisoned because of the disconnect between the action that you're doing and the logic, the step in your brain that makes you think you're doing that action. So when you're not walking in real life, but you're walking in a game, or you're sitting in a car and you're going in a direction, your brain thinks you're moving, but your body isn't. So it's that disconnect that makes your body think, oh, something is trying to kill me, I'm being poisoned. So that's why you try and throw up, because you're trying to get the poison out of you.
Yeah. There's only one game where I felt physically ill in VR. I think it was Starborn Arena or Starblood Arena, something like that. I can't remember what it's called in PSVR. But it was like you're in this spacecraft, but it moves in every axis, like all 6 axes. So you move forward, back, left, right, up and down. Then you also rotate in every axis as well, and you completely lose like where you're facing, and you feel ill on it.
See, I don't get motion sickness, so I'm fine. I don't ever experience any like headaches or anything when I play VRs, because some people don't. Like, there's a very...
So it's only that one game I've ever had, but because it was mad movement mechanics.
Yeah.
Most of them fine.
But I played the VR chat thing when that was popular and made all the memes, and like the Ugandan Knuckles thing. I played that recently, and I got so disorientated where I was in my room that I was just like facing different directions and I couldn't see where I was going. And the lag in that game is quite disorientating as well, because you just suddenly stutter sometimes. And that's
I played a game like that, and you punch my fish tank.
Yeah, it's a weird disconnect in sort of, but if they get latency down and they can get the hardware up to scale, which is, because I personally believe that if Google wanted to compete in the gaming market, they should get their fucking VR headset Daydream project that they had, tie that into Stadia, and have Stadia as a streaming platform for VR, and then you just stream VR games, because then you don't need to have massive high-level tech. You're doing that. All they have to do is fix the latency problem of people's Wi-Fi, and people who are trying to buy VR stuff might not have the best Wi-Fi, but if they can solve the Wi-Fi problem or the data problem and make it so it's seamless streaming, then you sort of fix the VR problem of you need massive hardware to run it, because if you can just stream it and it still works like with very low latency, then you kind of fix the problem, in my opinion.
But I think that's sort of the future of gaming. It's not going to be more hardware improvements. It's going to be a complete change of immersion. Yeah. Like the newer games, like they're going to have to make it more immersive. So that's my point. Like, these new consoles, they've got these haptic triggers and adaptive adaptive triggered haptic feedbacks. It makes it more immersive. So to
Well,
go from
I
VR
wouldn't
to make
say-
it even more immersive,
I
you could
don't-
have like a VR chamber.
I don't necessarily think immersion is necessary. Because you look at something like COD, you're not necessarily immersed in the world of COD and you notice every little detail. It's just got to
But
be.
do you not think it could be a better gaming experience if you were more immersed? Would you not rather you were more immersed in the game?
I personally would like to be immersed, but I don't necessarily think it's the key to success. Because
I'm not saying it's the key to success, but my point is, like, we're not going to get any further. Like, it's not going to get much further than it is right
you
now.
can always
in
say
people.
that, but somewhere along the line they'll figure something out, and then you'll be biting your words in 20 years.
Well, the whole reason, sort of getting to this point, is the transistor size. The CPU transistor sizes are normally about 7 nanometer now in size. But the
Mhm.
smallest you can actually get to is 1 nanometer.
Yes.
That you physically cannot get smaller than 1 nanometer. At that point, you're breaking laws of physics
Mhm.
because the quantum tunneling will happen. At
Yes.
that point, it's going to be more software based.
Yeah.
Hardware is not going to improve from there. That's it.
Well, that's why everyone's going into AI to do it, so that they can build
Exactly.
AI. Yeah.
And to go into this AI, and it's going to be because Google Glass bought North. I don't know if you heard of North.
I haven't heard of North, but I know they did glasses or something.
Yeah, so North actually had glasses you could buy. They had a projector in the frame that went onto a one-way reflective film.
See, there's
And it
another
reflected right to the
use.
back of your iris.
There's another use of Google Samsung transparent screen for
Yeah.
glasses. There's another use.
But what I liked about the North ones is only you could see it. No one could see what you're looking at.
Well, that's easy to do. That's
Well, no,
just-
of course it's easy. So what it did, it had a projector that had a one-way reflective film, and it reflected exactly to the back of your eye.
Mhm.
So only you could see it, and if you looked at any other angle that wasn't that exact spot, you couldn't see it. But it's very very incredible stuff. But Google bought them.
Yes, I'm not surprised.
Those frames, so I can't remember which Google Glass was originally. I think it was like thousands of pounds.
Yeah, it was
or
very
something.
expensive for something that looks so stupid.
But the Google North ones that looked fashionable because they had fashionable frames and it didn't stick out. It's just a little.
Yeah, but Dan, you also got to remember how much of a difference in years has it been since Google tried to do Google?
No. My point, what I'm trying to say is, it was only 600 quid.
Yes, but
Right.
that's just the natural course of the tech. That's not them being cheaper, because if they did it 12, however long ago Google Glass came out, it would still be as expensive as Google Glass because it's new and innovative. Google basically paved the way so that they could run, basically. So it's,
Yeah.
the point is that if Google kept with it instead of just letting, because Google tends to just do software, they don't tend to do tech. They get other people to build their tech because their
Yeah,
pixels
which is the point of
are-
Car North.
their Pixel phones aren't built by Google. They're built by, I think, LG or something. They're built by other companies to do their stuff. Because they know that they're not good at hardware, and it's the same thing for Microsoft. Microsoft is probably going to just not go into the hardware side because they're a software company. They're not a hardware thing. And so
Well, the point
it
I
makes
was-
total sense for Google to buy a company that is specializing in it, and they don't have to then do all the hard work. Basically, they just put the Google name on it.
All I was trying to say was that's the future. Like, that could be the future of technology, is these glasses people are wearing. Like, these glasses could replace smartphones.
I don't know. Depends.
Think about it. To get your phone out of your pocket is a bit of a hassle, right? So that's why smartwatches were invented. So you could just look down at your watch. You could read messages, but you're limited to that small display.
I don't
Well,
think
if you have
taking
this-
your phone out your pocket is the biggest hassle in the world.
Well, no, but the point is, like, people want things easy now, don't they?
Yeah, I know. The whole reason why I think it's on Netflix, there's a Social Dilemma documentary or whatever it is, and it's the lengths that Facebook and other companies will go to keep you on your phone. Because the whole reason why they invented the little dots icon is because when people sent a text, they put their phone down, and so what they did was they put the little dots animation to show you that people were looking, so that you would stay on your phone and you would look and wait and sort of just
Yeah.
go, so you wouldn't put your phone down and not look at your screen and go on and do other stuff. That's why they created those little pain in the ass dots that make you think someone's texting you back, because they made it so that you would stay on your phone rather than put your phone down and look away and go do something else.
But in the future, you could have all your phone tech in your glasses.
I don't
So you
think
wouldn't-
people want that, Bo. I don't think
Well,
people
would you not want it?
No, because the whole reason, I don't think people want their notifications flashing at them every day in their eyes. The reason why I think people would want to keep the phone.
Well, you can have it a different way though. You can have it like your glasses vibrated when you got a notification.
That's even more annoying.
Well, wasn't this about your glass vibrating and your phone vibrating? You could turn it off.
Yeah,
Same.
but then
It
what's the
won't be
point of
permanent.
having what's the point of having the glasses?
What do you mean? Because they're on your it's the same as what's found on a smartphone.
No, because the smartphone, you just look. I get what you're trying to say, but I don't think having something that's on your head that vibrates every time you get a notification isn't going to get annoying. And if you turn it off, what's the point of having the notifications go to your phone if you don't know about? The reason why you have a phone is so that you can sort of disconnect from the world. Disconnect from the virtual world a bit. If you start having your virtual world and your real world mesh, I don't think people are going to be healthy.
Well, the thing is, I can sort of see the future being meshed over. The digital world and the real world being merged together.
Yes, in a perfect world, it would work very, very well. But we don't live in a perfect world, sadly, and we live in a world where Facebook exists, and
Yeah.
we live in a world where Twitter exists, and we live in a world where Snapchat exists, and Instagram exists, and it's people pushing everything and everyone into a situation where they have to share their lives and they live stream everything, and it's all about
Yeah, I know.
how
I literally
people
don't get it.
perceive you. Yeah, I don't give two shits about it, but everyone else sort of does. And if more people go into that sort of, you lose yourself a bit. It's why people sort of just do it for the clout, basically. They don't think of the actions, they don't think of the consequences, they do it for the internet audience that they're trying to accumulate. And if you if you start having people wearing glasses that send you this notification or this person says this, I think you're going to start seeing a lot of people start getting mentally unwell from social anxiety, like social problems and like depression and a lot of other stuff. Because it's just going to be too much stimulus. At least with a phone, you can put it down, and with a glasses, you might forget that you might just keep them on because there might be your prescription, so you might not be able to see without them. So you'd have to put on a different pair of glasses. But
it could be different in the future. So, like right now, all the grandparents, they won't have smartphones, or they have very basic smartphones, and they're only used for very basic things. And for them, like the thinking of what we have now would be the same as what you're thinking for when if you merge those two realities together. So it'd be the future generations, if they were born into this world where reality and the digital world are merged together, they wouldn't feel like that.
Oh no, of course they're not going to feel like that, but it's still going to take a toll on them.
Because you at that point you would just feel like it's normal.
But is it a good normal? Because normal doesn't necessarily mean good.
Well, thing is, how do you define good?
Well, I don't. It's a weird thing because I don't personally like the idea of.
I 100% agree that it can be very creepy, and there's a lot of security issues with it.
Yeah, and if you have cameras and you're recording people, then there's the whole privacy issues, and it's a dodgy thing. At least with I see the appeal, but I don't know if it will go mass market because you have like Snapchat glasses and stuff that failed miserably, even though like they were supposed to be the biggest thing ever. And you see what people do, they don't, like Snapchat even sort of saw that people weren't using the glasses, so people bought them, put them on, used them for one thing, and then immediately switched back to using their phone for recording Snapchat stuff. And it's just like, well, what's the point of making this, really? No one was using it.
And sort of like another thing to take into consideration is big companies like Samsung and Apple, they will tell consumers what they want.
Oh yeah, Apple's
like
notoriously good.
People will say they wouldn't even heard of something last year, but as soon as Apple mentioned something about it, they go, I want it.
Yeah. Well,
before they even know anything about it.
Look at the fucking widgets thing on Apple.
Exactly. That's thing I've known for ages, but no one wants it. Like I've removed all my widgets. I've removed all my widgets off my phone anyway. They annoy me.
I always forget.
They get in the way.
I forget what the widget. I have some widgets, but they're very minimal. I just have like a battery percentage widget and the the weather app widget. Everything else I don't have.
The only thing that annoys me on Apple phones is not having an app drawer.
What?
Apple phones don't have an app drawer.
What's the app drawer?
When you swipe up to get more apps.
Oh, don't they? I haven't
No.
used an Apple product in years.
They've sort of added it kind of in now. So they've got a panel that groups your apps together. So you can have like one for social media.
Well,
But it groups it by its own software and then you don't.
to be fair, there are Android phones that do the same thing that Apple does, where they don't have a second screen to swipe up for more things. It's just.
But most of the time you can turn it on and off. So like right now you can put your phone into easy mode, or I don't know what's quite called, but it will remove the app drawer. And you can have an option to do it.
Yeah, I don't personally. I like having one screen and then.
And at the end of the day, I think options are nothing but a good thing.
Yeah, no, I
The only
agree.
thing that's harder is like for the older generations to have
Well-
all these options can be very overwhelming.
Well, that's the thing of the disability thing going back to video games is like The Last of Us is one of the most accessible games for disabled people because they have like colorblind modes, they have like sound modes. They have a bunch of like options for disabilities and stuff. And the more people who can play video games is a good thing. But it's just that developers can't necessarily put all the resources into developing to make it for those people. So it's kind of like a difficult sort of, if I can only get 20 disabled people, is it worth the time and effort to pump into developing this software side, basically? You there?
So we have sort of got a very off topic right now from our list.
Yeah, we're allowed
but
to
the
talk
other thing I
whatever
want to
we
talk
want. This
about-
is our thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, the other thing I want to talk about is the Xbox expandable storage.
Oh fuck, that is so stupid. I hate that. It's fucking $219, which I don't know
Yeah,
what it is in
It's
British.
expensive.
But that's like
I'd be like 180.
that's the cost, almost the cost of their lower end console.
That's true, but those cards aren't cheap to buy normally.
No.
So the cards, they're PCIe Gen 4x2.
Mm-hmm.
Basically just means it's fast. So the PS5 comes with a custom
SSD.
Gen 4, a PCIe 4 SSD, which has a read-write speed of 5 gigabits or gigabytes per second, which is insanely fast. The Xbox One is slightly slower.
Mm-hmm.
But the cheapest you can buy a 1 terabyte Gen 4 PCIe is about £160 right now. I know someone who bought theirs for 100 on sale, but normally it's about 116. It's over £100 at least,
Yeah.
because that technology is expensive. It's
Oh
really
yeah,
expensive.
I knew it was gonna be expensive, but that's such a stupid price to put it at, and it's gonna deter. Especially seeing as if you're buying, essentially, if you buy their cheaper console and you need more storage space because the cheaper one only has 528 storage, then you're just gonna be spending the cost of the console to buy a terabyte of extra storage. So you're only going to have 528 terabytes of storage more than the Xbox One X, and you've got the lesser console. So I just don't understand why they don't make it, because I know they could lose money on it just to get people to still do the exact same thing as they do with hardware for the consoles. Lose money on the consoles, lose money on the hard drives.
No, but they've been using that to make money. They've been making all the money through that.
They're not going to make much money from it.
Oh, no, sorry, I'm not just through that. I mean, like through the controllers.
I reckon it's here's my
the hardware.
conspiracy hat. The reason why they've done it at that point is to get people on Game Pass, because you don't have to download the games onto Game Pass, you just stream them.
That's also true. I didn't think about that.
Conspiracy.
They want, because they do want Game Pass. They're pushing Game Pass so much.
It's
The
my
biggest thing.
conspiracy of the day. Microsoft
But-
makes their hard drives expensive so that people will buy Game Pass. Put it
What
in a
sort of
headline.
confused me was how small that memory card is. It's tiny.
Yeah, they've got terabyte SD cards.
Yeah, but it's an NVMe drive. It's not an SD card. It's an NVMe. It's very much different storage.
Well, it's possible.
I mean, if you look at a 1 terabyte NVMe, they're much bigger than that. They're a lot bigger.
Well, this is probably why it's so expensive, because it's custom and it's.
But the thing is it could be compressed. Are they compressing the data on that SSD? And if they are, that significantly reduces the speed of it.
I don't know. All I know is you can't buy other expandable storage on an Xbox.
No, it has to be licensed through the Xbox. Whereas luckily
No,
on the PS5, the big selling point is that you can add an M.2 drive to it.
Yeah, but it also has to be specified by Sony to actually be usable.
Well, it's not that it has to be specified, but they said in the press conference is they're going to be testing loads of manufacturers,
Yeah.
and they will have an approved list. It's not that the ones that aren't on the list won't work. It's just they're going to have a list of these ones have been tested and they know that work.
Well, it's not that they won't work; it's that they won't run as fast as the Sony.
Yeah, 100%. It has to be at least a Gen 4.
Because the problem, the reason why backwards compatibility on the PlayStation 5 is so confusing is because you can't put a hard drive with all your PS4 games in and expect them to run at the PS5 level. So if you put a hard drive in with all your PS4 games, you'll still get them running at the PS4 level, because it will be that hard drive that's processing them, not the PlayStation 5 hard drive.
Yeah, because I was watching the press conference through the tech, and it's quite confusing for the most part. But from what I gathered from it is that they're using the NVMe SSD drives to actually uncompress the data, or they've got a sort of buffer in between that. So normally they would have usually the CPU doing most of this stuff, but they're actually using the hard drives themselves or the SSDs themselves to do this stuff, that's what makes it faster and makes these boot times really quick.
Oh yeah, it's incredibly impressive stuff.
From the way they were talking, it sounds like it's going to be much faster than even PC can handle it.
See,
just the way they've configured how they're doing these SSD drives.
On an SSD point, but from a graphics card point, it's not going to be faster from that standpoint.
It's just going to affect boot times and load times.
Yeah.
It's nothing else. It's not going to affect graphics in the slightest.
Yeah, but it will just improve the load times, basically.
But at the end of the day, the biggest thing that's changed between these two generations is ray tracing.
It will improve Destiny 2 greatly.
And just get Destiny SSD. 1. It already improves it.
Yes, but I don't want to. I want to buy a PlayStation 5.
I mean, don't get SSD on a PS4. I don't actually know how much difference it makes on SSD on the PS4.
I don't think you can put an SSD.
I don't think it makes much difference because the way they store data is a bit weird on PlayStations and consoles.
Well, the PlayStation 3 was a nightmare because it was meant to be incredibly powerful and stuff, but because people didn't know how to develop for it, they couldn't get it to work. So
one of the weirdest ways they kind of store data on consoles is they partition the drives for each game. So each game will have a different drive partition. So normally on a PC or something, you have one partition and you store all your games on that partition. Whereas on console, they'll have a different partition for each game. So it's why you'll see on your console that you have free space of 50 gigabytes. Then you want to store a game that's 40 gigabyte, but you can't install it.
Yes.
And you go, why can't I install it? It says 50 gigabyte free. It's because of that partition. That 50 gigabyte is split between all those partitions.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be a little bit of free space in each partition, and then you have one big block of space that you can take it from. And because you've got these other games taking up these partitions, it's going to go, you haven't got enough storage. Even though apparently you have on the software. Which that really annoys me on the consoles. When it does that.
The other reason why they do it is because if they have an update and they need to save space, then
exactly they save a little bit on the extra. They never fully finish it. But if they're using SSDs, they might not need to do that of this because there's no partitioning needed. When they use a hard disk drive, you have to have all your game data in one section, like a little segment. And it has to all next to each other. When using SSD, you can have it scattered about everywhere, but it doesn't matter. So it's a lot more efficient on when you store data. So it shouldn't need to be partitioned.
Yeah.
Hopefully, which would also greatly improve downloading speeds, and you wouldn't hopefully need to have that stupidly long copying data section.
Yeah. Well, they've already stated that they're trying to make it so that you could download different sections of a game and have them stored on and off, so you don't actually use as much storage. So you can cut out the multiplayer. As it's what the current CODs are trying to do, where you delete the.
It needs it. It really needs it. Just to uninstall the campaign or uninstall multiplayer or uninstall Warzone. It needs to have one of those. It has to. It's too big. That game is too big.
Yeah. Well, that's the current plan for most games, is to be able to be split into a multiplayer or a campaign.
I think that's a good idea. And it's not. It shouldn't be that hard to do either. I think the hardest part to do with it is sort of the purchasing part of it. Well, so when you buy a game, you buy the whole game and then it downloads the whole game. But how could you sectionize it?
Well, just give you an option like they do most of the time, where you go, do you want to download the multiplayer first, or do you want to download the...
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it still downloads both.
Well, they'll probably just give you an option of, do you only want to download the multiplayer?
Yeah, but if you just download multiplayer, where would you then go to download the Warzone? Because that wouldn't... I know in this situation, Warzone's free. But let's say if Warzone wasn't free, in Black Ops 4, and then you got the Battle Royale mode and the multiplayer mode. So you install the multiplayer mode, because it comes up with the option. But then where do you go to install the Warzone mode? Well, you have to go back on the store, but the store needs to distinguish if you bought the original game or not.
No, it's quite an easy software thing. All you have to do is make it so that when you download it, it splits down into 2 download bars, and you either download one or the other. No,
that's the easy bit. The hard bit is going to be to figure out the store, and that's when they have to work with Sony. The developers can do it easy enough. It's actually on the communication between both ends, because Sony haven't got the software there for the store to do that in the first place, and Sony to add that in for them to be able to do it.
Well, we don't know what the PlayStation 5's store looks like.
That's true, but it's probably going to be on the same system, as far as I'm aware. I can't imagine it be any different.
Well, they like to change things up. Microsoft just released the look for their one, and it looks apparently exactly the same as the current Microsoft store.
Exactly.
But then again, they have to kind of do that because they're trying to make it so that it runs across all platforms. Whereas Sony's just going to change it from the PlayStation 4, from a PlayStation 4 to a PlayStation 5 one. So they'll.
I mean, it will happen. They will do it. I mean, it's just going to take longer than it would normally.
Mm.
It could be a lot quicker to do, but it will take longer just because there's going to be this communication between them, and Sony will have to redo some of the store configuration. They'll have to. What they could do is that's what's something to Steam and have like a game page, and they've got the add-ons, right? So you could have a game and then just install different add-ons. But the hard difficulty is uninstalling the add-ons, because if think about it right now on COD, right, you got on the previous CODs like Black Ops 3, you could buy the game and then you could buy the DLC, and then you download the DLC, but then you can't uninstall the DLC. It's there to uninstall the DLC. You have to uninstall everything and then reinstall the game.
Pretty sure you can uninstall the DLC.
You can't uninstall one. You can't uninstall just one DLC. You uninstall the whole game.
Never tried.
And it's really annoying me because if I could just uninstall the DLC, I would, but you can't do that. So it's like God World War II, for example. That game became huge for all the DLC, but there's many DLCs I didn't like, and I would like to uninstall them, but I couldn't.
I didn't like World War II. It was terrible.
I'm just using that as an example. I think they need to be able to uninstall DLC.
Yeah.
And there isn't there. But that is on Sony's side of things, rather than the actual game developers.
Well, it's on both technically because the developers.
Yeah, you need to have the iteration for both. But at the minute, the game developers can't put it in because Sony haven't got it there to do in the first place.
It will be interesting to see what happens,
and they will do it. They have to do it. The games are so big right now.
Yeah.
And they're just going to get bigger, so they have to do something like that. And they will do something like that eventually.
I have 5 terabytes installed on my PlayStation 5, and it is.
But you won't on your PS5.
I won't, but I will only have like 4 games on PlayStation 5 until I can buy a hard drive expansion. I
mean, it wouldn't be so bad if you actually had gigabit internet everywhere. If you had gigabit internet everywhere, it'd be fine. You just uninstall a game.
Yeah.
And reinstall it. There you go, done.
Well, move to NASA, because they've got like 97 gigabit internet speed.
You need 97 gigabits, you need 1 gigabit.
Yeah, but you could download the entirety of COD in a second.
It wouldn't be in a second, it'd be longer than that.
No, gigabit per second. Well,
the COD's in bytes, isn't it? It's 200 bytes right now. It's 200 bytes, so you need to have it as 1.6 terabits per second.
I have
to be
no
downloaded in a
idea.
second.
This is incredibly boring. Not gonna lie. It's just...
It's
interesting, but it's kind of boring. It's talking about storage. It's not the most fascinating thing. We'll leave it up to our comment section to decide.
We talk about storage for about 15 minutes. Riveting conversation.
Yes. Shall we move on to the next topic?
Probably the Marvel movie delays have just been pushed back.
Yep.
Now.
To May
Black Widow
7th, 2021.
Yep.
And
then
then
Eternals is now in November.
Yep. And Shang-Chi is sometime in June, I think. July.
Yeah,
no, I think it's July 7th. One of them is July 7th, one of them is November. I don't remember.
Was Doctor Strange supposed to be next year?
Yes. No, Doctor Strange I think was 2022.
Right. I can't remember everything.
Yeah, I can't remember now because it's been like... It's the longest period of time where we haven't had a Marvel movie, like since 2009, between Iron Man and Iron Man 2, or the Hulk and Iron Man 2.
It's weird. It feels like the Marvel Cinematic Universe has actually ended.
It hasn't, because WandaVision comes
I know it hasn't, but it feels like it has, because there's been nothing new since Far From Home.
Yeah.
And Far From Home was, for the most part, kind of an ending, until that end cliffhanger where you see that Spider-Man was framed for killing
Quentin Beck.
Yeah, but until you saw that point, it was a kind of a good ending. Like that could have been the ending in the MCU right there.
Well, it wasn't, because Endgame.
I know.
Endgame was the end, and then Spider-Man was meant to be the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's just a fun world we live in. But I mean, I think it's an incredibly interesting thing because every time a Marvel movie has to be delayed, they have to delay every other single Marvel movie because
it's very weird, isn't it? A situation.
Because normally, like, every other studio delays, like, one film and then maybe pushes back their other schedules so that they don't have to clash with their film. So, like, you get Wonder Woman moving back, and then they move Tenet back or Tenet moves back, so they move Wonder Woman. But with Marvel, it's like, oh crap, if we release this film before this film, it reveals this secret for this film, and it's like, the problem with an interconnected universe is kind of starting to show if you have a worldwide pandemic that means people can't go to the cinemas.
It's just a Black Widow wearing a mask in
Well,
the film.
Taskmaster's already got that covered, so
Hey, it's fine. Good.
yeah, I think it's kind of a good thing, because I think this is probably going to stop the supposed superhero fatigue that everyone loves to claim is going to happen, like with the Western and everything, where you get so much.
I would argue it's a very different situation. People put superhero movies as one genre. They're not.
No, that's
The thing is, Western films were a genre. It was a genre of films that were popular.
Yes.
But superhero films have so many other genres to them.
Yes, that's why they've hung around for a lot longer than they maybe should have, which is why The Boys is speculated to have a spin-off TV show in a school with all the bullshit superheroes that they can create or come up with as like Instagram stars trying to but have superpowers in a school, and it's like a popularity thing.
I still need to watch that.
It's really good. I quite enjoy it. I'm enjoying it.
On my list.
The last episode's pretty. Have you not watched the first season, or are you watching?
No, I haven't watched the first season either.
How the fuck have you not watched? Oh my god! You should...
I've only seen Star Wars this year.
Yes, that still amazes me.
Been watched them. Lockdown. What do you lockdown? No, I watched Star Wars.
Which ones have you watched? The main
All of them.
nine trilogy, or the spin-offs as well? Like...
I've watched all of them.
Okay, so.
And I've watched Mandalorian.
Now you just have to watch the TV shows, the comic books. You just.
I am not watching comic books. I don't do comic books.
No one does. It's a very sad group of people who.
I didn't even know there was a Star Wars comic book until recently.
Yeah, I think the people. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing for me, because with Disney like going, well, we're going to cut off all of this expanded universe stuff and create our own thing that we kind of stumbled at the end to make good. But you, I imagine, think it's alright.
So what is it?
Well, I was saying, I imagine you just enjoyed most of them, yeah?
For the most part, I didn't actually hate any of them.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. People get very upset because they wanted certain things to happen with certain characters, but if you watch it at like never watching them before and you watch them in chronological order, they do pretty much sync up to what happens, basically. And
The only thing I did notice was The Force Awakens just seemed like a repeat of New Hope.
Yes, well,
I was watching, I was like, it felt like the exact same film. It doesn't feel any different.
well, I don't love it, but I defend why they did it, because
Yeah, I know why they did it. Nostalgia.
no, it's that, and it's basically trying to get every generation back on board with Star Wars, because the prequels kind of tainted Star Wars for a lot of people. So
Tainted it for the original fans, but I've seen a lot of people who kind of grew up with
I
the
love
prequels, and they love them.
I love the prequels.
I like the prequels. I
Yeah.
think the prequels are the best ones, to be honest.
I like the prequels because they're just fun, dumb, shitty movies.
I wouldn't say they were the best films, but
No,
they're most enjoyable
terrible.
to watch.
They're terrible to look at, and they have terrible acting. But Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan is like one of the best things about it, and that's why when he gets his spin-off TV show, it's going to be one of the most watched Star Wars things ever.
Yeah, he's only getting one season now.
Well, you don't
watching.
need more of that, really.
True.
I don't think
I mean, he's stranded on an island, on a
planet.
planet.
Yeah, that I think there are possibilities if it does well and they don't end it at the point where people think they end it. So they don't. Because he's there for like 18 years, I'm pretty sure. Just because I think Luke's 18 in the original trilogy, and then he gets dropped off there as a kid and then spends 18 years there. So there's a lot of time to cover, and they're already trying to make a Han Solo a second movie, or people want a second movie for that because there's still time to cover before A New Hope, and I'm just like, I'm tired of.
I think that's sort of the problem with Star Wars, is that it's all one big story.
Well, yeah, because people. The reason why I'm disappointed with the sequel trilogy, the new ones, the like Disney owned one, isn't because they're not good films. It's because they tried to tie it too much to the originals.
I would have much preferred if it just had a new story.
Well, that's what they're planning to do. They're trying to do stuff set in like the old Republic times and That's what I think Ryan Johnson trilogy or the Taika Waititi directed ones or the Kevin Feige produced one. They've got a lot of potential room to play around with, but because people are like Star Wars fans are very ravenous against like change.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's probably one of the most toxic movie fan bases in the world.
Oh yeah, that DC, Marvel, all of.
I don't think Marvel's actually that bad.
Marvel's
very opinionated. I wouldn't say it's very toxic.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. DC is very toxic. They managed to get a director back in to make a movie that was out. I don't understand. I don't understand the Justice League love.
Well, the point was they realized, oh, we really don't like this film, but we saw the chance it might have been different. So let's see what it was originally to see if it was any better. And then eventually,
but
they're going to realize, oh wait, it's the same film.
No, because you're not getting the movie that Zack Snyder was going to originally make because he's had 20/20 hindsight. So
yeah, he's like, oh wait, what I was going to do didn't work. So let's change it.
All of this shit that I maybe would have done, but Joss Whedon maybe did or didn't do. Because a lot of it, you can tell very clearly what's Joss Whedon and what's Zack Snyder, because the color tone changes. But anything that Zack Snyder was planning to do originally for that film, some of the stuff kind of looks cool. Like the redesign of Steppenwolf looks better than the current one, but I don't see the point of re-releasing a movie. And I blame.
No, it seems really dumb. Just make a new one. Just forget about it.
Because because what are they going to do? They're going to have the current Justice League movie and then the Zack Snyder 4-part mini-series on HBO Max. Because I just think DC fans are kind of dumb if they buy a subscription service just to watch a 4-part mini-series because they managed to campaign to get it. Because all you've done is campaigned to get a movie that you then have to watch week to week on a subscription service that by the time that you stop watching it, you've now got to pay monthly unless you cancel it, and most people don't cancel their subscription services because they just forget.
Yeah, I was paying for Amazon Audible for 3 months before I realised.
Yeah.
Oh, for goodness sake.
I always, if I ever go onto the Audible thing, I just get their tokens and then cancel immediately.
I should have done that. I didn't do that.
Yeah, but
the only thing is, DC could be using this as sort of a test. So there's currently plans for a Justice League 2, but they know the first one didn't work. But I don't think they really know what would work.
Well, DC, the thing with DC at the moment is they're basically building up to Flashpoint, which is basically in the comic books a reset of the comics so that they could cherry pick what worked and didn't work, which would
be good. It'd be the reboot that needs.
Yeah, but I mean, it works, but it also doesn't work because I don't know. I think Justice League was kind of okay. It should have been bigger, and it
was better than Batman v Superman.
Oh yeah,
in my opinion, I hated that film.
That's why I hate the fucking fact that people are clamoring for a Zack Snyder directed movie, because it's like, do you want another Batman v Superman? Because that wasn't very good. Or do you want a Man of Steel? Because that wasn't very good.
Zack Snyder came out and said, he's like, he criticized the Dark Knight films, and he said, it was supposed to be a dark and gritty film. It was like, oh yeah, but it wasn't really dark and gritty. If I directed it, I would have had it so Batman actually killed people.
Yeah, but
and I was like, well, that's not Batman, is it?
Yeah, it's not the point of Batman to kill people. Batman.
Like, the very big thing about Batman is that he doesn't kill.
And he wears black and dresses as a bat.
Okay, yeah, but ignore that. But like, his part of personality is he doesn't kill. That is his rule. His one golden rule is he does not kill.
It's what separates him from villain.
Exactly. If he killed, he would be a villain.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Zack Snyder understands that. He doesn't.
No,
Marvel seems to they want to keep the comic book personality.
Yeah.
So for Iron Man, they wanted it to be very similar to comic books, and the most similar to comic book is Elon Musk.
Yeah, who appears.
So they actually had meetings with Elon Musk to discuss his personality.
Yeah.
And that's what Robert Downey Jr. played it like. And that's why he had the cameo in Iron Man 2.
Yes, and he looks very different because he was losing his hair.
Yeah.
And then miraculously, I think around that time he sold PayPal and managed to get hair plugs.
I need hair. What? I just sell my companies.
I could be completely wrong with that, but that's my.
I thought he still owned PayPal, but
No, he doesn't own PayPal. He sold PayPal, and that's why he had all his money. Because he sold it to eBay, and that's why eBay was exclusive for PayPal, I'm pretty sure, for years before they decided. Because it was the only thing you could pay on was PayPal on eBay, and then they only just recently changed it, like a couple years ago, so that you could use other payment platforms. Because eBay is a massive online sale, so you had to have a PayPal account if you wanted to use eBay, I'm pretty sure, for a few years. And so when he sold it at a really good time. Also, I like PayPal. PayPal is good.
PayPal's very good. I like it too.
Yeah, although it's not very popular with teens and stuff.
I prefer PayPal. PayPal's good. Teens are idiots. Use TikTok.
Well, that TikTok situation is a mess.
That is very
because essentially they gave him, I think it was last Sunday, the 19th. When was Sunday? What day was Sunday? Yeah, 20th. They had till the 20th of September to sell it, which was impossible because business transactions of that scale take years to go through. Look at the Disney-Fox merger. As a point of interest, it was announced like 2 years before it finally got sold and transitioned over and Disney actually owned anything.
Well, that actually got taken over a lot quicker than people thought it would be.
Yeah, they cut a lot of corners and pushed it quickly because they wanted to get the Disney streaming service up and running. That's why they pushed it. Because they wanted to get Disney Plus up and running with a back catalogue of Fox movies for the same reason that Xbox has bought Thing, because you get a back catalogue.
Yeah, get all those games on the Game Pass.
Yeah. So the company that has bought TikTok has bought the rights, not for TikTok, but has bought the rights to house the information stored on American servers, not TikTok itself, which is not what the president asked for, but the president is claiming that it is what he asked for. And the person who owns, I think it's Oracle, who bought the stake in TikTok, is also a Trump supporter. So,
oh my goodness me. Well, one of the most funny things is, they're not, even if this didn't go through, they couldn't actually ban it anyway. They could just stop it from getting updates in the US.
Oh, they've banned it. They've taken it off the store, I'm pretty sure.
No, but you should get a VPN to Europe. Oh, look at that. Download it again. Download the updates, take the VPN off. Oh, look at that. It still works.
Doesn't actually work for app stores. You
have to have an EU account.
Yeah, but you can't. Yeah, it's kind of difficult on a phone to do that sort of thing.
It's possible, but you have to have an account of that.
Yeah, but you think the average person...
It's harder with Apple. It's easy. It's a lot easier with Google.
Yeah, but it's not banned on Google.
I
think you can still get it on Google. I don't know. I've never paid any attention. I don't pay very much attention to this topic because it bores the...
Well, I tried to do a foreign account on Apple a long time ago and had an iPod Touch. But you need like a zip code and like a...
That was what I was trying when Disney Plus first launched. I tried to get an American account because I wanted to watch Disney Plus because The Mandalorian was coming out, and I didn't trust the internet to not spoil for me. And guess what happened when fucking Mandalorian came out in America? Every single fucking internet thing was Baby Yoda. So,
yeah, I kept saying Baby Yoda, but that's not really a spoiler.
It is a first episode. Yeah, but it's a spoiler.
First episode.
Yeah, but Dan, we had to wait 6 months before we could watch the first episode. Yeah,
I would say anything happens in the first episode isn't a spoiler.
It is if you can't watch it for 6 months. If you can watch it all at the same time, then yes, it's not a spoiler. But if it's fucking 6 months delay before you can watch the first episode, it is a spoiler. Because America is a fucking nightmare for when they if anything comes out in America, it just becomes free fucking will. Because you look at any Marvel movie that released in the UK or Europe a week earlier, because that tended to be what happened. The UK and stuff would get Marvel movies a week earlier. Social media would have nothing at all. You wouldn't see a spoiler anywhere. If a Marvel movie released in America a week before, you would see spoilers before it even hit UK soil. And
because American people are so selfish.
Yeah, I know, but that's why I think it's stupid to release it in America if you don't.
That's why Trump pulled out the Paris Accords, because he didn't want to damage America's capital. Yeah. So you want to mess up the world just so you can have more money.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to get rid of the world that you have the money in
Well,
to have more money.
That's why he doesn't like the World Health Organization. Because it's like, well,
Dumb.
yeah, he's an idiot, but we're not American, so we sadly can't vote him out, and we're leaving it down to Americans to do it. So,
Well, the two options they have now is even worse than it was before.
yeah,
They've made it worse between. How can you make Trump and Hillary Clinton worse than what it is now?
well, you go.
No, sorry, no, now what worse than then? Sorry.
You go Joe Biden and Donald Trump.
Yeah, Joe Biden. He's significantly worse.
Yeah,
They're both bad. Like, what do you do? What do you do?
you sadly have to vote for the least bad, which is Joe Biden, because
I don't know, to be honest.
he might die.
But they're both old. They're both 70.
Yeah, Joe Biden's, I think, older.
Joe Biden's 77.
Donald
Trump's 74.
Yeah, so Joe Biden's closer to death.
He might die in office.
Also,
Oh, it's so bad. I think it's like what I find one of the most hilarious things about this is that all the liberals in America they hated Trump for being a white old man.
yep. And then they put a white old man.
And they got a white old man as their new leader.
Yep.
I think that about sums it up for today.
Yep, I think that's a good ending point. America sucks.
Yeah.
Hello to our
Agree.
American listeners. We love you. Keep listening. No, you're alright. So most of you are alright. You've just got a few bad eggs.
Yeah.
And sadly enough bad eggs to elect a president who seems to hate your country whilst
So
claiming
bad.
that he loves it. Anyway, I think that's a divisive end, but we'll see in the comments. Leave a review.
God, what have you done?
That's been False Feelings and Emotions. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out. Dan, do you have an ending?
Please don't hate me.
Good enough. Peace out.